Hello, welcome back. Thank you for joining me. My wife Cindy and I are on a Caribbean cruise right now, and I've pre-recorded this as well as a number of other videos so that we may continue to check in with our inner teacher here. Because this series of videos serves as one of many possible ways that you can connect to your inner teacher. And as we do this, as we study and practice A Course in Miracles, we see that just as in all other aspects of life, consistency is very important on the spiritual path. So I thank you for joining me. Let's talk about a very common pitfall for students of this course. This conversation, as all conversations are, it's equally relevant to those of you who have been studying and practicing this material for decades. These videos apply to all levels of experience, from none and just checking this material out to lifelong student. In fact, it applies to everyone. Why? There is only perfect oneness. So, of course, it applies to everyone. And those of us that fall into the decades-long course students category will know, or well, we should admit to ourselves that the attitude of, I already know that, doesn't serve us. That popular societal attitude of, that's so yesterday. But did you get it yesterday? Do you get it now? Really, it's a good question for all of us. So everything that is said here is just as relevant to the lifelong student as it is to someone just checking all of this out. So a common pitfall here on the course, and I'm using the term pitfall in the sense of an obstacle, not necessarily that you're going to fall into a trap door and be greeted with steel jaws that will pierce you and you bleed out type thing. Not like that, but an obstacle to your learning. And there's a big one that's very common that I thought we would address here. And that is this pressing need that we have here in the world to have to understand everything completely on an intellectual thinking mind basis before we take action on it. We all, from time to time, take a look at this material that posits nothing less than the fact that there is no world. And we attempt to solve it all like we would solve a jigsaw puzzle with lots of little carved out pieces. We attempt to solve it all with our rational, so-called rational, intellectual thinking mind that actually doesn't put the pieces together. It makes more pieces by categorizing, dividing, and subdividing, like an outline where we have multiple subheadings and subheadings under subheadings because everything is so different. Well, it's not different at all. But this is the way our minds have been trained here in the world, where we think that this communication device is us. We think that we're individual, self-sustaining survival units, in other words, individual human beings. That's how we're conditioned to think. It's what our biology textbooks tell us that we are. It's what our societies tell us that we are. Chances are it's what your parents told you that you are. That we're conditioned to make the separation real. It's not real, and we know this deep down. So what we call the spiritual path here is a process of letting our conditioning go. Here in the practice of A Course in Miracles, this looks like forgiveness. This is why forgiveness is such a thing in this course, is we're letting go of our illusory perception of ourselves, of others, and everything this world appears to contain, including the world itself, which is also an illusion. We're releasing our attachments to this illusion. We're recognizing that this supposed separation from God, and by extension from our brother, never occurred. It's impossible. It never took place. We're acknowledging that in the practice of this course, which forgiveness plays a central role in. So when we attempt to understand these teachings purely with the intellectual thinking mind, we can only get so far. It's true. We can only get so far because while the central teachings of this course are all really simple, we're so used to complicating everything in our mind by classifying, reclassifying, and dividing and subdividing, parsing our experience out into multiple component parts, that we fail to grasp the utter simplicity of truth, which we can only approach with the thinking mind. We can approach it, but it has to be experienced. What we call the experience of awakening or enlightenment or realizing God, or whatever else you may choose to call this, is an experience. And along the way, we may have glimpses. Perhaps you've had some experiences of this perfect oneness, which is beyond all thought, beyond language, beyond all of our concepts here in the world. It's beyond the intellectual, so-called rational thinking mind. Truth is all that there is, and that is so basic that we run and hide from it. Now, when we choose to come out of the dark room and begin to avail ourselves of the light, it looks like a process. And what we discover along the way is that this critical thinking mind that parses out and divides and subdivides and thinks of myriad different possibilities in a vast situational ethic that appears to have no end. This state of mind will only get us so far, because spirituality is about experience. It's about experience and practical application. And it is about a theme that we've talked about a lot here. And that is learning to relax and trust, learning to relax and give up our need to intellectually understand all of this and trust the guidance of our inner teacher. Because it is true that we can't solve a problem with the same mindset that created it in the first place. So we can't solve separation with separation thinking, can we? We cannot. We need a new thought system. Enter A Course in Miracles, a new thought system, and one that aims to turn our current separation thought system right side up, not turn it on its head. It's on its head. We're going to turn it right side up. It is upside down. It's backwards, 180 degrees backwards. And what we're doing here, what you're doing in your study and practice of this course, is you're flipping it completely upright. We're learning to see things as they are rather than the way that we have made them, which is very profound. We do this by learning a different thought system, which is a whole lot simpler than the old one that brings us nothing but the same old pain, death, decay, suffering, frustration, lots of frustration and hardship. We're being asked to give all of this hardship up. Can that be so hard? And there are plenty of times where we answer, yeah. I'd rather keep my little forms of hatred. Let's say I completely disdain this political party. I dislike them. I think they're bad people. Just an example. I always use politics as an example because what better example of the ego at play? I mean, really, wherever you happen to fall on this spectrum, it's making an opponent where there is no opponent. So it's the perfect example. It's wanting to keep our little disdain for the opposition party while we forgive everyone else and come to discover that we can't do that and awaken. It's either total or it's not at all. And it's all about experiencing our oneness with God. And the intellectual, rational thinking mind can only go so far. We need to learn to relax and trust the guidance of our inner teacher, who points the way, who shows us. So, what do we do? Here in the world, what you can do is when you notice that you're carried away and you catch yourself attempting to rationalize all of this and struggling intellectually with the concept that the separation never occurred, none of this ever took place, and we're at home perfectly one, at home in God. When you are unable to wrap your intellectual head around that, it is a beautiful opportunity. Could say it is frustration because it can be experienced that way, no doubt about it. But it is an opportunity to let go, to forgive the so-called rational, intellectual thinking mind, and lean into the guidance of your inner teacher. Learn to relax and trust. Release all of this drama to your inner teacher and forgive it. It never took place. True forgiveness of the Son of God, which, by the way, is true forgiveness of yourself. There is only perfect oneness, after all. So it's true that in books and in YouTube videos and podcasts like this one, that we use the tool of language to reach one another. Yeah, no problem. If anything that is ever said in these videos inspires you to practice, to forgive the Son of God, and further inspires you to awaken, that is our inner teacher speaking to you loud and clear. And we would all do very well indeed to listen. So along the way, there's nothing wrong with the rational, intellectual, thinking mind. Just know that spirituality is about experience. Therefore, learning this course is about practical application. This is how we learn, because our experience, as we honestly, practically apply this course, as we do that, our experience proves to us that these ideas are true. It proves to us that ideas that may seem at first outlandish, I am not a body, I am free, there is no death, the Son of God is free. For example, there is no world. There is no world. It's our experience that proves to us that these ideas that may seem outlandish at first are in fact true. We experience it. This is how we learn. And that is where the action is. So nothing against the intellectual, rational thinking mind. Just let's understand it only takes us so far. I'm well aware of this because I have one of those big fancy doctorate degrees in this lifetime. I've got it framed and all of that in a nice frame. And at one point I had it hanging on the wall. I still have it, but it's not hanging in this picture right here. So I've invested plenty of time and suffering, without a doubt, and effort in this lifetime into the world, just like the scribes of this course did, PhDs at Columbia. It's something that many of us have done. And let's just recognize the limitations of that. That's all. There's nothing bad about your graduate degree if you have one. If you don't have one, so what? If you do have one, so what? Whatever your background is, you're here watching this and you're drawn to our inner teacher's voice right now. You're drawn to this message. So that's what really, really matters. Nothing against anything that we've invested our time in the world. There is no world. It's all equally illusory. So what's true here, what's real? The only thing that can be said to be true and real here in this world are our loving thoughts. There is only love. God is love. God is. Love is. Period. So it's about our experience. When we have moments of doubt along the way, let's all understand that we have the same inner teacher, part of our mind, the part of our mind that's referred to as the voice for God in A Course in Miracles. It's also referred to it, not a human being. You could use he if you want to for the Holy Spirit, but it's known by many names here in the Course, not just the Holy Spirit. So however it communicates the message to you, you'd do well to listen and to put it into practice. That's what it's all about. Okay, so I thank you, as always, for tuning in. Comments and questions are always welcome, and we've had a number of very, very good dialogues here in recent weeks, especially. So if there is a question that comes up here, that is completely natural. It is. It's perfectly natural, because what is spirituality but an extended process of self-inquiry? So if you've got questions, would love to hear them, and go ahead and ask them. If you have not subscribed yet, please do. The subscription arrow is right here in the corner of your screen. Go ahead and click that and join us, and we will see you all again very soon.